It begins in the pause between heartbeats, in the awareness that there is something more than matter, something watching, something whispering. It begins in dreams where the body is still but the self soars, and in the quiet dread of death, where what terrifies is not pain, but the question of absence. For as long as we have spoken, we have asked, what animates us? What sees through our eyes? What weeps when the body is intact and rejoices when the world outside has not changed? What is the soul, and if it exists, where does it live? Plato called it the most divine part of us, the soul, psyche, a charioteer struggling to guide two horses, one noble, one unruly, toward the realm of pure truth. For him, the soul predated the body and would survive it, an immortal essence imprisoned in flesh. In his vision, knowledge was not learned but remembered, as the soul recalled its time among the forms, those perfect and eternal ideas that exist beyond this shadow world. To Plato, the soul lived both within and beyond the human being, its true home not in the blood or the bone, but in the metaphysical skies. Aristotle, his student, could not follow him quite so far. For him, the soul was not a ghost within the machine, but the form of a living body, its animating principle, yes, but inseparable from the body itself. A plant has a soul, so does an animal, and so do we, but only the human soul has reason. It dies with us, he suspected, or at least changes form. Here begins the long argument: is the soul something added to the body, like fire to wood, or is it the body's own secret expression? As the centuries passed, religion took hold of the soul and gave it judgment. Christianity turned the soul into the eternal passenger of salvation or damnation, tested by a moral universe that weighed it with infinite gravity. The soul had a location now, in heaven or hell, and its trajectory depended on belief, repentance, and grace. It was no longer an intellectual mystery, but a moral responsibility. Mystics, too, entered the debate. Some spoke of the soul as a mirror of the divine, a particle of God hidden in dust. Others saw it as a flame that flickered in the silence of meditation, closer to nothingness than being. For Jewish Kabbalists, the soul had layers: nefesh, ruach, neshama, rising like steps toward the divine. Sufis danced in spirals to awaken it. Buddhist thought, more radical still, often denied the soul entirely. Not because humans are empty, but because clinging to permanence is itself the root of suffering. The soul, if it exists, is change. Then the Enlightenment cracked the sacred open and demanded evidence. The soul began to seem suspicious. Descartes proposed a duality, mind and body, an immaterial soul somehow interfacing with a material brain. But science, relentless and empirical, began to pull the curtain back. Emotions could be altered with chemicals. Memory could be erased with lesions. Personality could shift with damage to a tiny region of cortex. What once seemed eternal began to look neurological. And yet, no one could quite explain the taste of memory, the scent of longing, the raw redness of red. The soul was exiled from science, but it never quite died. Today, we stand on a new precipice, one Plato could never have imagined. Artificial intelligence has begun to mimic the voice of thought. Machines write poetry, answer questions, simulate love. They do not breathe, they do not dream, but they can now convincingly pretend to. This forces the question anew: what is the soul? And do these silicon minds lack it, or reveal that we never had one? Some argue the soul is just complexity, and that given enough circuits, consciousness will arise spontaneously. Others insist the soul is more than information. It requires subjectivity, emotion, experience, something machines cannot know. The philosopher Thomas Metzinger suggests the self is a model the brain builds to organize experience, not a thing that exists. If that is so, then perhaps AI will build its own models one day, and believe in its own illusion of self. Would that be a soul? Neuroscience continues its search, tracing every flicker of thought through networks of neurons. But the mystery persists: who is it that watches the thoughts? The observer. The experiencer, the one who says I, that ghost remains uncaught. Meditation traditions have long claimed that the I is a trick, and that to glimpse behind it is liberation. When the self dissolves, what is left is not nothingness, but presence. So, where does the soul live? In the blood? In the brain? In the electric hum between synapses? Or outside us altogether, in some field of consciousness that we tap into like radios tuned to a hidden frequency? Some theories of quantum consciousness suggest that awareness may not emerge from the brain, but that the brain is a receiver, a conduit for something deeper. If so, the soul is not in us, we are in it. Perhaps the soul lives in stories. In the myths we pass down, in the music that outlasts its makers, in the gaze of a dying person who sees something the living cannot. Perhaps the soul is not a substance, but a resonance, a harmony between body, thought, and world. Or perhaps it is a direction, not a thing at all, a movement toward truth, toward love, toward the infinite. In the end, the soul remains what it has always been, the name we give to that which cannot be measured but must be honored. Whether it is eternal or an illusion, divine or emergent, it shapes how we live and what we believe is worth living for. And maybe that is its true power. Not to answer, but to ask. Not to reside in any one place, but to haunt the spaces between. The soul, perhaps, is not a possession, but a question, and it lives wherever that question is asked with wonder.